Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a fascinating journey through Australian coinage, focusing on the 50-cent pieces from 1969, 33, 1978, 1979, and 1980. Each of these coins tells a story of its time, from changes in design to historical context, and their place in Australian currency history. Some have become everyday icons, while others stand out as treasures sought after by collectors. Stay with us as we explore their unique features, history, and why these coins remain so important to coin enthusiasts today. First up, we turn our attention to the 1969 Australian 50-cent coin, a remarkable and historically important piece of decimal coinage that remains a highlight for many collectors today. Struck by the Royal Australian Mint in Canberra, this coin represents the second year of the iconic dodecagonal 12-sided design that has since become one of the most distinctive circulating coins in Australia's history. When decimal currency was introduced in 1966, the very first 50-cent coin was struck in round shape, made from 80% silver. However, due to silver prices quickly rising above the face value of the coin, those 1966 issues were withdrawn after just 1 year. The mint needed a replacement that could circulate freely without its intrinsic value exceeding its monetary worth. And thus, in 1969, the new copper-nickel 50-cent coin was issued in the now familiar 12-sided shape, a shape that instantly set it apart in everyday use. The 1969 issue, though produced in relatively large numbers with a mintage exceeding 14 million, holds an important position in the series. While many circulated freely, high-grade survivors and well-preserved examples are far scarcer than one might expect, especially in mint state condition. Today, a circulated 1969 Australian 50-cent coin might only trade for a few dollars, but in pristine uncirculated grades, examples can command between $820,000 and $850,000 with particularly well-struck and graded specimens, fetching even higher values at specialized auctions. On the obverse of the coin, we see the familiar portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. This design by Arnold Machine was used across Commonwealth coinage during the late 1960s and early 1970s. It captures the young queen wearing the tiara gifted by her grandmother, Queen Mary. Even in circulated examples, the portrait retains elegance, with the surrounding inscriptions Elizabeth II and Australia 1969 neatly framing the design. The obverse not only reflects Australia's link to the crown, but also represents an era of modernization as the country transitioned into decimal coinage. The reverse of the 1969 Australian 50-cent coin is a true masterpiece of heraldic art designed by Stuart Devlin, who would go on to design numerous coins for Australia. The reverse depicts the Australian coat of arms. At its center is the shield, bearing the badges of the 6 states of Australia. Supporting the shield are 2 iconic national symbols, the kangaroo and the emu, both chosen because neither animal can move backward easily, symbolizing a nation that always moves forward. The detail of Devlin's design, from the textures in the animals' bodies to the intricate rendering of the state badges, is striking even on circulated coins. The entire reverse is enclosed by the sharp edges of the dodecagonal border, making it instantly recognizable in hand or pocket. From a numismatic perspective, the 1969 issue is significant because it represents continuity and stability after the radical change in 1966. The introduction of the 12-sided coin reassured the public that the 50-cent denomination would remain practical and durable, and the 1969 coin became one of the first to circulate widely in its new form. It also cemented Stuart Devlin's design as one of the most enduring in Australian numismatics, a design still in use today more than 5 decades later. Collectors prize the 1969 issue for several reasons. First, as an early issue of the dodecagonal 50-cent coin, it connects directly to the beginning of this long-running series. Second, its survival in high grades is far more limited than the mintage numbers suggest. Many coins were heavily circulated in everyday commerce during the 1970s and 1980s, leaving very few pristine examples. Today, top-graded coins certified by professional grading services can exceed $950,000 to $960,000, especially if they exhibit full strikes and brilliant luster. Third, varieties and errors associated with the 1969 coinage, such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or die cracks, are highly collectible and can command premium prices far above standard values. Historically, the 1969 Australian 50-cent coin also represents the economic and cultural changes of the time. Australia was embracing decimalization, modernizing its currency system to be simpler, more efficient, and aligned with international practices. The coin also carries with it the narrative of a nation redefining its identity, balancing its Commonwealth ties, symbolized by the Queen's effigy, with its unique national identity, symbolized by the kangaroo emu, and state badges on the reverse. Even circulated examples of the 1969 coin hold great appeal for collectors who specialize in Australian decimal coinage. The coin's wear patterns, toning, and marks tell stories of everyday life, transactions in shops, travel across cities, and decades of use. Each piece is unique, and for many, that uniqueness is part of the coin's charm. In conclusion, the 1969 Australian 50-cent coin is far more than a simple piece of copper nickel. It is a symbol of transition, marking Australia's early years in the decimal era. It showcases the artistry of Stuart Devlin, the heritage of the Commonwealth through Queen Elizabeth II's portrait, and the national pride of Australia through the coat of arms. While millions were struck, high-quality survivors are scarce, and their market values reflect this, with the finest examples reaching into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars. For collectors, this coin is both a historical artifact and a cornerstone of any Australian decimal collection, a timeless reminder of Australia's evolving identity and the enduring beauty of its coinage. Next up, the 1973 Australian 50-cent coin is another fascinating chapter in Australia's decimal coinage history, representing the early years of the iconic dodecagonal 50-cent series. Struck at the Royal Australian Mint in Canberra, this coin carries both historical importance and numismatic appeal, especially for collectors who focus on the development of Australia's modern coinage. By 1973, the 12-sided 50-cent piece had been circulating for only a few years. Following the short-lived 1966 round silver issue and the introduction of the copper-nickel version in 1969, the decision to move away from silver was both economic and practical. Rising silver prices had made the original 1966 round 50-cent coin worth more in melt value than its face value, causing hoarding and withdrawal from circulation. The replacement, beginning in 1969, was the copper-nickel dodecagonal coin that remains a staple of Australian currency to this day. The 1973 issue thus belongs to the earliest stage of this long-running series. The mintage for the 1973 Australian 50-cent coin was relatively modest compared to later issues, with just over 45 million pieces struck. While this may sound large, it is significantly lower than many later issues, making well-preserved examples more desirable to collectors. Circulated coins are still readily available, often trading at or slightly above face value, but in mint state condition, values increase considerably. High-grade uncirculated examples can fetch $620,000 to $630, sure with certified coins graded MS65 or higher, commanding upwards of $625 Euro to $635,000, depending on luster, strike quality, and overall eye appeal. Rare error coins from this year, such as off-center strikes or clipped planchets, can sell for thousands of dollars, sometimes even more. The obverse features the elegant portrait of Queen Elizabeth II designed by Arnold Mason. This effigy, introduced in 1966, depicts the young queen wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, and it would remain on Australian coinage until 1984. The inscription reads, Elizabeth II Australia 1973, surrounding the portrait in a clean, balanced layout. Even in circulated examples, the portrait often retains recognizable features, but in higher grades, The detail of the tiara, hair, and facial profile is especially sharp and pleasing. The reverse is where the 1973 50-cent coin truly shines. Designed by Stuart Devlin, it displays the Australian coat of arms in bold detail. The shield in the center carries the badges of Australia's 6 states, each representing its unique heritage. Flanking the shield are the kangaroo and emu, 2 animals chosen because they cannot easily move backward, symbolizing Australia's progress and forward movement as a nation. Above the shield sits the 7-pointed Commonwealth star, and around the design, fine detailing emphasizes the artistry of Devlin's work. The dodecagonal border frames the entire reverse, making the coin instantly recognizable both in hand and by touch. From a historical perspective, the 1973 50-cent coin reflects the stabilization of Australia's decimal coinage system. By this year, Australians had fully adjusted to the new currency, which had been introduced only 7 years earlier in 1966. The coinage no longer felt experimental. It had become a trusted part of everyday life. Yet for collectors looking back, these early 1970s issues hold a special charm, as they represent the formative years of a series that continues into the present. Collectors value the 1973 issue for several reasons. First, its lower mintage compared to other years makes it a semi-key date in the series. Second, surviving coins in pristine mint condition are not easy to find, given that most were heavily circulated for decades. Third, the coin carries the timeless design of Stuart Devlin's coat of arms, a design that has become iconic not only in Australia but worldwide, recognized for its bold symbolism and enduring artistry. Market demand for the 1973 50-cent coin reflects this blend of history, artistry, and scarcity. Circulated examples may only bring a few dollars, but gem-uncirculated examples are far scarcer and much more valuable. Collectors who specialize in high-grade, decimal coinage often compete fiercely for top specimens, especially those with sharp strikes and original mint brilliance. Error coins, while rare, are especially sought after, sometimes pushing prices into the $700,000 plus range, depending on rarity and eye appeal. In conclusion, the 1973 Australian 50-cent coin is far more than just a piece of copper-nickel currency. It is a relic of Australia's decimal transition, a coin that tells the story of a nation, moving confidently forward while honoring its Commonwealth heritage and state identities. With its modest mintage, beautiful design, and scarcity in high-grade condition, the 1973 issue stands as a key collectible within the series. Whether held for its modest value in circulated form or treasured as a gem in mint state, this coin remains a proud reminder of Australia's numismatic and cultural journey, a coin that continues to captivate collectors more than half a century after it was first struck. Next up, the 1978 Australian 50-cent coin stands as another important piece in the continuing story of Australia's decimal currency, representing the maturity of the dodecagonal 50-cent design in everyday circulation. Struck at the Royal Australian Mint in Canberra, this issue carries with it both historical significance and enduring appeal among collectors who appreciate the artistry and symbolism of Australia's coinage. By 1978, Australia had been using decimal currency for just over a decade. The round silver 50-cent coin of 1966 had long been withdrawn, and Stuart Devlin's copper-nickel dodecagonal design, introduced in 1969, had firmly established itself as one of the most distinctive and practical coins in the nation's monetary system. The 12-sided shape was not only visually unique but also easy to recognize by touch, making it a successful adaptation to everyday use. The 1978 issue is part of this formative period, when decimal coinage had become an accepted and trusted standard across the country. In terms of mintage, the 1978 50-cent coin was produced in large numbers, with nearly 25 million coins struck. This ensured widespread circulation, and as a result, most examples today are found in worn condition. In circulated grades, they typically trade for face value or just slightly above, making them affordable and accessible for casual collectors. However, well-preserved mint state coins tell a very different story. High-grade examples with sharp strikes, brilliant surfaces, and minimal marks can sell for $380,000 to $390,000, while top-graded specimens certified by professional grading services in MS-65 or higher may command $450,000 to $550,000. Rare minting errors such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, or clipped planchets are highly sought after and can push values well beyond $500,000, depending on rarity and condition. The obverse of the 1978 coin continues with the Arnold Machin portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, first introduced on Australia's decimal coinage in 1966. This elegant design depicts the young Queen wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. The surrounding inscriptions read Elizabeth II, Australia, 1978, balancing the composition. Even after years of circulation, the portrait remains recognizable and dignified. Though in uncirculated examples, the fine detail of the hair and tiara shines with clarity. The reverse, as always, is dominated by Stuart Devlin's masterful depiction of the Australian coat of arms. At its center lies the shield, bearing the badges of the 6 Australian states, symbolizing unity and identity. Supporting the shield are 2 of Australia's most famous native animals, the kangaroo and the emu, chosen not only for their symbolic value but also for their association with progress, as neither animal can easily move backward. Above the shield rests the 7-pointed Commonwealth Star, representing the Federation of Australia, while intricate detailing across the design showcases Devlin's skill in artistry. The dodecagonal border frames the design, making it instantly distinguishable both visually and by feel. From a historical perspective, the 1978 issue reflects a period of stability in Australian coinage. The decimal system had fully taken hold, and the 50-cent coin was firmly established as a trusted denomination in commerce. For Australians of the late 1970s, these coins were simply part of daily life, used for shopping, transport, and savings. Yet today, collectors look back and see them as artifacts of a bygone era, carrying with them the cultural and economic story of the nation during that time. Collectors value the 1978 coin for several reasons. While its mintage was large, high-quality survivors remain difficult to find due to heavy circulation. As a result, gem-uncirculated coins are scarce and increasingly sought after. The coin also carries the timeless artistry of Stuart Devlin, whose designs became a defining feature of Australian decimal coinage. Finally, error coins and high-grade proofs from mint sets are especially prized, often commanding strong prices at auction. In terms of market values, circulated coins typically remain at face value, but mint state examples climb into the tens and hundreds of dollars depending on quality. Proof versions, struck with special care for collectors, can command even higher premiums, particularly when housed in original packaging or certified by grading services. Unique error coins, as mentioned earlier, may sell for thousands of dollars, sometimes exceeding $100,000, if they are especially rare or dramatic. In conclusion, the 1978 Australian 50-cent coin is much more than a simple copper-nickel piece of currency. It is a continuation of Australia's decimal journey, a coin that embodies the nation's heritage and identity while reflecting the artistry of Stuart Devlin and the craftsmanship of the Royal Australian Mint. Though common in circulation, the finest preserved examples are highly prized, with market values that reflect their scarcity. For collectors, this coin is a reminder of Australia's economic stability in the late 1970s and a timeless piece of numismatic history. Whether collected for its modest value, its symbolic design, or as part of a complete decimal set, the 1978 issue remains a significant and enduring part of Australia's coinage legacy. Next up, the 1979 Australian 50-cent coin marks, another chapter in the continuing story of Australia's decimal currency system. Struck at the Royal Australian Mint in Canberra, this coin is part of the enduring copper-nickel dodecagonal series introduced in 1969 after the withdrawal of the short-lived 1966 round silver issue. By 1979, Australians had already grown accustomed to decimal currency, and the 50-cent coin had become one of the most distinctive and widely used denominations in everyday life. The mintage of the 1979 50-cent coin was substantial, with over 25 million coins produced for circulation. Because of this large output, the coin remains relatively common in worn condition, often found in change even today. In circulated grades, its value generally sits at or near face value. However, the real interest for collectors lies in high-grade examples. Uncirculated coins with sharp details, minimal bag marks, and original mint brilliance are far scarcer than the overall mintage suggests. These mint state coins can command $130,000 to $180,000, while superbly preserved specimens graded MS65 or higher may fetch $150,000 to $250,000. Turco at auction, rare error coins such as clipped planchets, broad strikes, or off-center strikes can sell for thousands of dollars depending on rarity and eye appeal. On the obverse, we find the familiar effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin. This portrait, introduced on Australian decimal coinage in 1966, depicts the young queen wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. The surrounding inscription reads Elizabeth II, Australia 1979. Even after circulation wear, the portrait remains elegant and recognizable, but in high-grade coins, the fine detail of the tiara, hair, and facial features stands out with clarity. The reverse showcases Stuart Devlin's iconic design of the Australian coat of arms, which has been featured on every dodecagonal 50-cent coin since 1969. The central shield contains the badges of the 6 Australian states, symbolizing national unity. Supporting the shield are the kangaroo and emu, 2 native animals that embody Australia's forward-moving spirit, as neither creature can easily walk backward. Above the shield sits the 7-pointed Commonwealth Star, representing the Federation of Australia. Devlin's detailed artistry ensures that even after decades of circulation, much of the design remains visible. While in uncirculated examples, the depth of the engraving is truly striking. From a historical perspective, the 1979 issue reflects Australia's economic and cultural climate in the late 1970s. The decimal system was by then firmly established, and coins such as the 50 cent had become symbols of modern Australian identity. Yet at the same time, the designs retained a deep sense of tradition, with the Queen's effigy representing the nation's ties to the Commonwealth and the coat of arms, representing its federation and unity. Collectors today value the 1979 50-cent coin for several reasons. First, while the mintage was high, truly pristine examples are increasingly difficult to find, as the vast majority of coins were used extensively in circulation. Second, coins from this era are often collected as part of complete sets of early decimal issues, making the 1979 piece essential for series collectors. Third, errors and proof strikes from this year carry strong demand, with proof coins in original mint packaging often commanding $150,000 to $160,000, and rare minting errors significantly more. Market values reflect this divide between common circulation coins and scarce high-grade survivors. Circulated examples may only bring a small premium over face value, but gem-uncirculated coins, proofs, and error varieties can attract enthusiastic bidding from collectors. In particular, coins graded MS66 and above by professional grading services are rare and may exceed $300,000 when offered at auction. In conclusion, the 1979 Australian 50-cent coin is more than just a copper-nickel piece of pocket change. It is a continuation of the nation's decimal journey, a coin that reflects both tradition and modernity through its designs, and a collectible that rewards careful searching and preservation. For most Australians, it was simply an everyday coin, but for collectors, it represents artistry, history, and a tangible link to the late 1970s. Whether found in circulation, preserved as a mint state gem, or collected as part of a proof set, the 1979 issue remains a significant piece of Australia's numismatic heritage, coin that continues to capture the interest of collectors more than 4 decades after it was struck. Next up, the year 1980 marked an interesting chapter in the history of Australian coinage, and among the coins struck that year, the 50-cent piece stands out as both a workhorse of commerce and a subtle collectible in its own right. The Australian 50-cent coin, with its distinctive dodecagonal shape of 12 sides, had by then already become a familiar sight in the nation's currency system, having replaced the unpopular round silver 50-cent coin back in 1969. By 1980, it was firmly established as one of the most circulated and recognized coins across the country. The obverse of the 1980 50-cent coin features the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. This portrait was the work of sculptor Arnold Machin, and it had been adopted by the Royal Australian Mint in 1966. Continuing in use through the late 1970s and early 1980s, the portrait depicts the young Queen wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, facing right, with her title inscribed around the rim, Elizabeth II Australia, 1980. This design carries an aura of continuity and recognition, symbolizing Australia's place within the Commonwealth and its long-standing relationship with the Crown. On the reverse, as always, is the bold Australian coat of arms. This design by Stuart Devlin features a shield divided into 6 sections, each representing one of the 6 states of Australia. Surrounding the shield is a wreath of golden wattle, and on either side, the nation's most recognizable animals, the kangaroo and the emu. These 2 creatures are often said to symbolize progress, as neither animal can walk backwards easily. Above the shield rests the 7-pointed Commonwealth star, representing the 6 states and the territories combined. This reverse has become one of the most iconic images of Australian coinage, proudly representing the nation's identity. Now, when we consider the minting of the 1980 50-cent coin, we find a rather significant point. Unlike certain earlier years where the mintage numbers were relatively low, the 1980 issue was produced in quite high quantities to meet circulation demand. Over 25.6 million coins were struck at the Royal Australian Mint in Canberra, ensuring the coin was widely distributed and heavily circulated. As such, finding examples of the 1980 50-cent coin in average circulated condition is extremely easy. You'll encounter them in pocket change even today, more than 4 decades later. However, for collectors, the real interest comes in condition and quality. While circulation pieces are common, uncirculated or proof strikes from 1980 carry more appeal. Proof versions of this coin were produced for collectors, and these were struck to the highest standard with mirror-like fields and frosted devices. They were sold in special sets issued by the Royal Australian Mint. Today, these proof coins retain strong collector interest and are far scarcer than their circulating counterparts. In terms of metal composition, the 1980 50-cent coin was struck in copper nickel, weighing 15.55 grams, with a diameter of 31.5 millimeters. Its dodecagonal shape makes it instantly recognizable not only in Australia, but also to collectors around the globe. By 1980, the switch away from silver had already been made over a decade earlier, as the rising price of silver in the late 1960s made the round silver 50-cent coin unsustainable for circulation. The copper-nickel alloy ensured that the coin remained durable, practical, and cost-efficient for everyday use. Now let's talk about value. In circulated condition, the 1980 50-cent coin is usually worth just its face value, 50 cents. But if you're looking at a coin in mint state, uncirculated or proof condition, values can rise. A high-grade uncirculated coin might fetch between $85,000 and $95,500 AUD, depending on demand and overall quality. Proof strikes, especially those still housed in their original mint packaging, can sell for $120,000 to $140,000 AUD or more, particularly if they are in pristine condition. Like most modern Australian decimal coins, the key is quality. The higher the grade, the more collectors will pay. There are also some interesting varieties and errors. Known for the 1980 issue, some coins show minor die cracks, off-center strikes, or clipped planchets, all of which can boost a coin's value, significantly depending on the severity and visibility of the error. Error collectors often pay a premium for such pieces, sometimes far exceeding the value of a normal uncirculated coin. So why does the 1980 50-cent coin remain a point of interest for collectors? While it may not be a rare coin by mintage alone, it is an important representative of Australia's currency during a period of economic and cultural change. It carries the enduring coat of arms design by Stuart Devlin, one of the greatest coin designers of the 20th century, and it continues the story of Queen Elizabeth. I's long reign on Australia's coinage. For newer collectors, the 1980 issue is affordable and easy to obtain, making it an excellent starting point. For advanced collectors, the quest for perfect proof or uncirculated specimens offers challenge and reward. In the grand scheme of Australian numismatics, the 1980 50-cent coin serves as a reminder of how even the most common, circulating issues can hold history, art, and collector appeal. It represents not just currency, but a small piece of Australia's national identity, carried in millions of hands since its release. Whether tucked away in a collection, displayed as part of a proof set, or still changing hands in everyday transactions, the 1980 50-cent coin remains a proud emblem of Australia's coinage heritage.